This is Tiffany Rosier, the host of the Afros and Knives podcast. We use the Anchor podcasting app to create and distribute the show. Creating a podcast on Anchor is effortless. It allows you to record a high-quality podcast and distribute it everywhere, including Google Podcast and Apple Podcast. They distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. No fancy equipment or podcasting experience is necessary, and it's 100% free. As long as you have a story to tell, Anchor is the platform to use. Share your story through audio using the Anchor app for Android, iPhone, or your desktop. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Welcome back to the Afros and Knives podcast. I am your host, Tiffany Rosier, and this is an interview series featuring Black women working and leading in food and beverage, hospitality, food justice, and food media. This week, I'm introducing a bit of inspiration in each episode. Today's inspiration is from the incomparable Toni Morrison. This is the time for every artist in every genre to do what he or she does loudly and consistently. It doesn't matter to me what your position is. You've got to keep asserting the complexity and the originality of life, and the multiplicity of it, and the facets of it. This is about being a complex human being in the world, not about finding a villain. This is no time for anything else than the best that you've got. In this week's episode, I had the pleasure of chatting with former executive chef of Seattle's Mark Queen Hotel and founder of New Orleans' Black Roux Collective, Chef Myisha. Let's dive in.
Well, my name is Myisha Mastersson. I am called Chef Myisha by mostly everyone. I've been in the culinary industry now for almost 25 years. I got my start with my love of food from my great-grandmother's garden. She had a wonderful garden in her backyard and pretty much harvested every piece of produce that we ate in her home from her yard. And that created my passion for not just the culinary industry, but the whole seed to table movement, not only farm to table, but seed to table, like we're planting, we're growing, and we're cooking. Black Roux Culinary Collective is my business, and my business is one that combines culinary travel with classes, tours, and a pop-up supper club. And that is a way that we provide immersive culinary experience to our clients and to our guests.
I understand that grandmama's and grandmothers and mamas growing things, because my great aunt had this shelf of all the things that she had in her garden that she would just jar and pickle and preserve. And when she passed, nobody gave me dibs on any of that product, and I'm still bitter about it. And my grandfather at this point, he has his garden that my grandparents live in South Jersey. And so he's still out here growing what he can. And then my dad, he just took up they have a pretty decent plot of land in that part of New Jersey as well. And so him and his wife have just started to kind of like take up a bit more of a structured like gardening. And I wouldn't necessarily say farmsteading, but like close. So he planted some watermelon and some other stuff. So absolutely having access to growing your own food. I also Google, like, growing your own food is like growing your own money. So, I mean, look, and it just tastes much. I don't think anyone really understands what that tastes like when you've like plucked a green bean that you have spent all that time growing and putting it on the table in front of people. So that's an experience I think everybody at some point should have. So for Black Roux Collective, the concept for that, especially the travel component. Why was the travel component so important? Because I know most people mix food and travel and it's not necessarily intentional. They just kind of end up in a new place and go, oh, either they'll try something new. More often than not, they will get someplace outside of their home country and try to find something that is similar to what they eat at home. So what was the catalyst or the inspiration behind involving the travel component there?
Well, I feel that, especially in this country, in the United States, we have a plethora of different cuisines that we can try. We can go to a Greek restaurant, we can go to a Chinese restaurant, we can go to a Mexican restaurant. But a thing that happens here in America is that cultures dumb down their cuisine for us. They make it less spicy, they take away some of the flavor, they use American ingredients as opposed to the ingredients that they
Mm,
use in their country. And
so true.
yeah, and so in my own travels, I began to notice that, for example, when I went to Greece, I noticed that the Greek food that I had in Greece was nothing like the Greek town in Detroit. Greek town in Detroit, it paled in comparison. Nothing, nothing like it. And I'm like, the food was so fresh. It was, we have organic food here, but their organic food is standard. So, even going back to growing our own food, when I tasted the avocado in Greece, I said, "Oh my God, this is what an avocado should taste
Ooh.
like." I never cut open an avocado and the juice ran down my arm like a mango. Not here,
Ooh.
but there,
No, not here.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
but there, I had this avocado and like my brain just snapped. And it was like, we are, as culinary professionals, especially in this country, we have the opportunity to learn from these people, from these cultures. But let's take it another step. Let's go to these places and learn the food from the people where it came from. You know,
Mm,
we want to talk about Mexican food. Let's go to Mexico. Let's find us some old Mexican grandmas that are making tortillas by hand and rolling them out with a
okay.
Coke bottle instead of a tortilla press. Let's
Look.
look. Exactly. Let's go to
Oh,
Italy. Let's go to
wow.
Italy and make pasta with these old women instead
You
of
know?
learning pasta from some old white man that's making pasta that he learned from years and years and years. They dumb down the
Yeah.
cuisine so much. So
Oh, yeah.
that's so important to me. It's so important to embrace the cultural aspects of food. It's
Mm.
it's just it's just so special. And that
It
provided the catalyst for that. It's like I'm teaching these culinary classes. I have people that I'm teaching like Asian dumplings to. I'm doing a tiny Chinese dumpling class. I'm doing a kimchi pickling class. And I'm like,
oh, yeah.
let's take this another level. And let's say if you're taking my dumpling class, why not come on the tour to Japan and we go to these places, we go to a dumpling factory, we go to the street markets and we learn from these people. We eat the food there and then we have a better grasp of what we're making, what I'm trying to teach you with my limited knowledge. And I call it limited in comparison to the people there where it comes from.
Right. You know what? Where do you believe that factors into teaching people about just African foodways and Black foodways, especially what we brought to this continent as enslaved people, and like how would you see or envision creating a tour or creating a travel experience around like our food, and because we've also managed to we've had to like dumb down and water down our own
Oh,
cuisine
yes.
for essentially the same reasons, which of course people think is monolithic and kind of one note, and and I've always found our food to be vibrant and full of life and rich and diverse. So like, what would you, if someone was to come to you and ask you like, hey, I don't necessarily want to go outside of the country, but I want to learn more about food that's indigenous to this country, food that's indigenous to the enslaved Africans and the native people, the indigenous folks who were here before anybody else got here, what would that look like?
That would look like a history lesson more than a culinary lesson to me personally. I I believe wholeheartedly that African American cuisine that is rooted in our ancestors that were enslaved has very distinct aspects that now in this day and age we need to take a step back from and examine from a health aspect, because the food that we were cooking back then, not just for ourselves but for the people that were enslaving us, was heavier, fattier. It was made to sustain us for the backbreaking work that we were doing back then.
Mm,
And so, in going into what we call soul food or comfort food or something like that, we need to take into account that that food is delicious. It's delicious. It's definitely delicious, but it's not something that we should be eating every day, you
right.
know? And I think that if I got into that type of class, I would definitely start there. And
Okay.
then I would go into the food itself, because we took the way that we flavored food and the way that we made food in Africa, our seasonings, our spices, the way that we braised, the way that we baked, the way that we cooked, and we brought it here and we used the ingredients that we had available to us in this country. And
Mm,
not just what was available to us in the country per se, but what was given to us by the people that enslaved us. And so we created a cuisine from the what was discarded from the people that enslaved us. And so things that have become popular now in this day and age was something that was scrapped.
mm,
And that's another thing that's really important. I think that would be touched on if I was to do a class of that nature. Um, and then there's the indigenous people who have a completely different cuisine that is not that widespread and people that don't really know about. And that's something that I would like to get into. There's
mm.
a culinary collective that is in Colorado or Oklahoma. I can't really think about it, but it's a group of native people that are cooking from the land, cooking with fire, cooking in the ground, cooking in fire pits, and trying to bring recognition to the food, the native food that has almost disappeared from this country. Other than reservations, we don't see it
True.
anywhere.
True. So true. So true. And it's I always find it fascinating, like the way we managed to combine native African and European cuisine and really created something new from the three of those, like a hybrid of the three. And a lot of the way we eat now is informed by all three of those. And so to kind of like separate them back out again and really be able to step back and examine, you know, where they started to mix and where they all started to fit together. I mean, as a cook, I have to think about, like, we were kind of the original infusion cookers,
Mm-hmm.
and we were, we actually really created something that hadn't existed before, just like, us as a people. And at this point, it's just like, I think this is why Black chefs and Black cooks are so innovative. Like, we can take, I think it's just in us to kind of take what's in front of us and create something really unique and authentic and special. And it doesn't, not that other cuisines don't innovate, but they're not forced to. So we're always kind of put in a position to problem solve. Even like down to when you were saying like we had to take what was left or what was given to us and I can't imagine like you're pulled out of your home country, you're brought to a new place, you're forced to labor and you don't speak the language and you don't understand the land you're working and you don't know a lot, you're looking at crops and you understand farming more than the people who have enslaved but you're trying to cook them meals that you might not quite understand because you're like, we don't eat this way. Mm-hmm. And to be able to like take that position and still create an entirely new cuisine that still echoes through the American culinary space now, for me, I'm just like, it sounds like who we are as people. Like you can give us pieces and we will figure out a way to create something original from it.
Exactly.
So it's always incredible to me that, people, they just disregard that they kind of either don't understand it or they don't find it important. And I'm just like, I think people are waking up to the fact that, if we left and took everything with us, there'd be nothing here.
There would be nothing at all.
There would be nothing. Yes. There'd be nothing behind. We was like, you know what? If we're leaving, we're taking everything with us. So just understand that.
Exactly.
I know we had chatted a little before, and you let me know that you were working on a nonprofit. And I just wanted to give you some space to talk about your nonprofit and what your goals are, what that looks like, what the mission is, and who you're looking to serve with that project.
So my nonprofit that is in the very beginning planning stages right now, I'm actually running a fundraising campaign right now for it, Black Roux Farms. And this is something that I have found to be extremely necessary going into the issues of food insecurity and food sovereignty, especially in the underserved African American communities. People don't eat right. I mean, that's like the best way I could say it. People don't eat right. We don't, as a collective Black people, we aren't eating as healthy as we should be. We still have the highest rates of diabetes and obesity and heart disease and things like that. And it stems, again, going back to earlier in the conversation, the food that we were given back when we were enslaved people, it's carried on, and we don't need to eat like that anymore. And the Farm Collective is something that will provide free or low cost produce to underserved communities here in Louisiana. And it will also provide classes, geared towards single mothers, is what I'm really hoping to go for with these classes. But for single mothers and parents that want to learn how to grow their own food and grow their own produce. I find that fresh organic produce is more expensive, and it's more expensive, rightfully so, because when you grow it, you know how hard it is to keep your garden organic without putting any chemicals on it or anything like that. And it's cheaper to grow it yourself. It's not easy, but we can make it easy. And with a collective of people together, community together, teaching these people how to grow and eat their own food, it can change us. It can change us for the better. It can enrich our culture. And I'm even talking about get some chickens, have your own eggs. You don't have to have pasteurized eggs. Like even the meat, have a pig or two. So I want to go all the way down to the grassroots of farming and teach our people that we can do this ourselves. The food in this country is iffy, especially right now with the current events happening. We have a meat shortage going on, which I learned expressly yesterday when I decided that I wanted to bargain shop for the first time, that this meat shortage is only affecting the inner city urban communities. The grocery store where I usually shop is completely stocked. I went to a Save a Lot over in the lower Ninth Ward, and the store was almost empty. And I was floored because the place where I shop isn't like this. And checking my privilege here, because I've always been a person that goes for the freshest and the organic and the farm grown and the things like that, and realizing that the majority of the people in our community don't have that luxury. And I want to change that.
The for those who don't understand like the process of getting something like this off of the ground, you're in the fundraising stages, what is that first kind of round of fundraising for, as far as like just structurally getting everything kind of pulled together and like figuring out what the next steps are and what this course of action is going to look like after your fundraising?
So the first round of fundraising is definitely going to be for two major aspects, and that is going to be to establish the nonprofit, which I learned is a little more difficult than just establishing a regular business, because you have to have a board. You can't just be one person and establish a nonprofit. So that's going to be one of the goals from that. And the second goal from the initial round is to find the perfect plot of land that's here in the inner city, because I want this farm to be urban. I don't want to,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, I want this farm to be accessible to the people that I'm serving.
Okay.
And that's very important to me. And Louisiana, especially here in New Orleans, we have a big urban farming initiative that's going on right now, and they offered a lot of grants right after Katrina. And there's a lot of plots of land in the city, like in the lower Ninth Ward, especially like right off of St. Claude, big plots of land that can be used for this purpose. And we just got to get our hands on it. And I am hesitant to go to big banks for funding because I want us to own this. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh, yeah.
I want this to be community led, community funded, community worked. I want to provide jobs to people in the community. I want for somebody to be able to walk or catch the bus to the farm to pick up to the produce box and not have to have it shipped to them because it's in their neighborhood. And that's definitely important for this first round of fundraising, is making sure that it is rooted here in the city.
Okay. Is there anyone you're partnering with? Partner? Wow. See, not enough coffee. Are you in partnership with Are you in partnership with anyone yet on this idea? Or I was like, oh, it's pre-noon and I have had about 8 ounces of coffee at this point, and that's not nearly enough. Are you in partnership with anyone at this point? Do you have like just a few folks that you're kind of like throwing ideas at, or who are able to support you, not just monetarily, but just even in the planning process, that are local, or regional even at this point, that can help you like kind of get some boots on the ground?
I have joined the Food Sovereignty Project very recently, as of yesterday, and
Okay.
I've been talking with them. Other than that, this is a vision, and
All right.
since I am not native to New Orleans, I've been here for about 6 months. I'm still feeling my own way around here,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and with the whole COVID-19 thing, this is where this vision popped up. And I realized that it's a greater need for this now more than ever. Before, I thought about it being, I still had an idea for the farm before the COVID
Mm-hmm.
19 thing, but it was a for profit idea to be a seed to table supper club.
Oh, okay.
But with what's going on in the world, and with the food shortages and the food insecurity, having good food shouldn't be dictated by how much money you make or your social standing.
Amen to
And I
that.
found a calling greater than myself in my own pockets, and now I'm working on it.
have you been, I know, like, of course, with like COVID-19 at this point, most of the chefs I know have had to like put a big old pause on business at this point. And or make an absolute pivot and start to look at some other ways to do our work and to impact our communities. I think I've noticed the trend, and hopefully it's one that just becomes a regular behavior as a community, is that we're kind of leaning into this kind of the community mindedness, and like prioritizing the us over the me at this point, which I think it's will pay bigger dividends in the end. For the farm itself, are you looking at maybe like a co-op opportunity? Are you looking at any type of like internships and that kind of thing? Like, how do you see the program growing in that way?
So I'm definitely seeing internships. I'm also seeing, as well as the farming classes, doing a structured culinary program for young culinarians who also want to get into the seat to table thing. So I'm seeing culinary classes, and I'm still seeing incorporating travel into this by sponsoring culinary travel to low income teens that wish to be chefs. I think that's something that's important, and it's something that I wish I would have had access to when I was a younger chef. If there was some program that could have sponsored me to go to Japan to learn how to make noodles when I was 16, it might have pivoted the way that my business is and my career is now. And so that's something that I'm definitely looking at. Um, Internships are important, co-ops are important. I also want to employ the community as well. And of course, that'll come later down the line once it's established, but it's definitely where I'm looking.
Now, you said you've been in New Orleans for about 6 months,
Yes.
and how did you find yourself? How did you find yourself there? Like, what was the why the relocation?
So, in a different lifetime of mine is what I'll call that. I lived here in the late 90s. And for a brief period in time, I wanted to be in the medical field. And so I came to New Orleans. I went to Dillard University's HBCU for pre med. And I discovered the French Quarter. And that was the
Wow.
end of that.
All right then. She's like, well, we're going to make a swift end to this.
There was a
Okay.
very swift end to that. And I, in being here in those 3 years, I fell in love with the city. I fell in love with the culture. I fell in love with food. I fell in love with the camaraderie and the way the people are here. Like it's so welcoming, and there's a sense of community. Like people here speak to you. You can be walking down the street, and every single person you pass will say hello to you.
Mm,
And it's like, oh, you guys just moved in. It's like, well, we're moving back. We lived here before, and everybody always says, welcome home. And
wow.
that's something that I just love this place. And so
Mm,
when me and my partner met, we realized that New Orleans is both of our favorite cities. He's a musician and I'm a chef. It's a perfect match for us. And so we
I love
decided one night that we were going to run away to New Orleans together, and
it.
after a bunch of drinks. And here we are. We did it.
that that is usually when you make the best plans, is after a bunch of drinks. I
Yes.
mean, you're like, what, this idea sounds real good. Now, where were you living prior to Louisiana, or like in between?
So I lived in Seattle for 10 years.
Okay.
And during that time, I had a very successful personal chef's business. And I had a domestic violence incident. I was in a very violent marriage, and I decided one night to pack up everything that I had into a trailer, hook it up to my truck, and drive back home to Detroit. And so I drove 2,500 miles with my dog to get away from that. And in that process,
Mm,
I left a successful business behind. I left a home behind. I left a family behind. I left it all to save myself.
there it is.
And I went back to Detroit to regroup, reconnect with my family. And in being there, I realized that I left Detroit for a reason.
All right, look, just tell the truth then. I
Yes,
mean, tell the truth and shame the devil. Look,
exactly. I left
man,
Detroit for a
sometimes you
reason.
go, oh, this is why I left. Okay, you're right. You're
I left a
right.
long time ago. I kept leaving. Every time I
Mm,
went back, I left again. So I was there for a year.
that's bless you. I do the same thing. I go back and forth to Arizona, and every time I'm there for about 9 months. Once I get to like the ninth or
Mhm.
10th month, I'm like, ooh, this is why I don't live here. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all right. That is all right. But I always end up like going, it's like a revolving door. Yeah, we just keep going back. And then I'm like, no, I cannot go back another time. This is not going to work out.
Yeah. I had to heal myself. So going back home to ground and heal and be around family and to receive that love that I was missing since I had been gone for so long was very important. And in being there, I met somebody that made me realize that I could love again. And
Mm.
I found that, and we scooped each other up and got up out of there.
All right. Or you know what I find incredible, like the theme like that I noticed like kind of running through your story is this theme of healing. And so like even stepping away from medical school and stepping away from that particular career choice, the energy continues to follow you.
Yes.
Like that kind of healing energy continues to follow you. So like anything you've done has kind of had that had that shadow over it. So
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing that we are always attracted. I think, especially in food, when you start to talk to people about what they've done before they got into food and how usually either the career choice they made before that or the whatever degree they were pursuing in college or their life choices right before they got into food is still like reflected in their career in culinary and it becomes a running theme throughout pretty much everything. It really just helps them tell their story on the plate. So it's always incredible to like get someone's backstory and see how that has factored into like what they do now with food and around food.
Yes.
So yeah. So and I'm like, I can hear it like all over this idea about, coming back to the ground, coming back to farming and, and your reasons for centering that idea of eating better, eating healthier, kind of decolonizing our diet at this point, and kind of and reconnecting with how we originally ate and what we usually eat, and getting back to that. So now for culinary, you said you've been in culinary for 25 years,
Yes.
and then getting out of medical, stepping away from medical and into food. Like what was that trend? How did that transition look?
So I was into culinary before I was into medical. And
Okay.
I was into culinary at a very young age. I think I had my first official kitchen job at the age of 15.
Wow.
Uh, and I went back and forth from that. So I had that kitchen job and I was 15. Then I had a couple of years of teenage angst and rebellion. I was a stripper for a long time. And when I moved to New Orleans for college, I was coming out of this rebellion and saying,
Mm,
okay, I was a chef for a minute, I was a dancer for a minute. I need to find myself. And again, another time I think I was trying to save myself because I was into
mm.
some stuff back then, honey. I was into some stuff. So
Look, I mean, I think everybody at some point be into some stuff for
yeah.
sure.
So I came my mother was looking for some options for me. I was looking for some
Mm,
options for me. She was a member of a Methodist church, and Dillard University is a HBCU, but it's actually a Methodist school as well. So since she was a member
Okay.
of the church, I got a scholarship.
Mm.
And there was a list of schools, and I looked at the list of schools, and the only thing I saw was New Orleans, and I was like, I want to go there.
She's like, I know the location. That's all I know at this
I
point.
want to go there. And I got down here, and school was great. It was fun. And then I got into the French Quarter, and being that I was a dancer before that and realizing how much money I could make in the French Quarter dancing, yeah. So
Yeah, because sometimes your coinage takes precedent. That's all I'm saying.
It does. I did a trial night, and I made like $1,500 in 4 hours. And I was like, you know what?
There it is.
What am I doing here? Why am I? Why am I even here? So, yeah.
I'm like, have you questioning all types of career choices? You're like, well, wait a minute. Now, look, not everybody's comfortable with this, but but there is no other coinage like it. So, you know.
But the amazing thing about the French Quarter back in the 90s is that industry and the culinary industry were hand in hand. Now it's not so much as it used to be, because Katrina drove out a lot of those old businesses and a lot of those old clubs.
Oh, wow.
But back then there was kind of an unspoken partnership between the performers and the restaurants. You know, it's like everybody knew each other. The doormen knew the doormen. When we ordered food from the restaurants in the quarter, and they would bring it into the clubs to us. And I found that love for that authentic Cajun and Creole cuisine while I was here, not actually involved in the culinary scene, but being adjacent to it.
Okay. And did you have a specific moment where you were just like that moment where you go, you know what, this is something to like that I seriously want to pursue? Like I wanted to kind of throw 100% of my weight behind, you know, getting just getting serious about my like my culinary career, about my business. You know, like when Black Roux essentially kind of emerged from, you know, from your heart. You know, what was that turning point?
When I left New Orleans and went back home, it was January 2nd, 1999. I remember the day because it was right after the New Year's celebrations and everything. I went back home to Detroit, and my mother was about to get remarried.
Oh, wow.
And I was pretty much broke. I had, came back home, basically ran back home from New Orleans after ditching college. I was back home with my parents, and I was thinking, like, what can I do for my mother since I can't afford to give her a gift? And I offered to cater the wedding. And
what? Okay. All right.
I'd never done that before.
Okay. That's a gift. That is a gift.
I never done anything like that before. And I just said I've always been a great cook. You know, I always made great food. I was cooking Thanksgiving dinners for the family. I think my first one, I was 11.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was like, I'm going to cater your wedding. And my dad, he's my stepdad, I call him my dad. My dad, who has been a cater waiter for the majority of his career in New York, kept saying, are you sure this is what you want to do? This is a big job. Are you sure? You know, this is something big. And I'm like, oh, I can do it. I can do it. And I surprised myself. It was amazing. And I said,
nice,
okay.
Nice.
I said, okay. Maybe I should go to culinary school instead.
Oh, yeah. I understand that one, because that was essentially like how I ended up making the switch myself. I was in Nashville, and I was like I was doing little small like dinners for like birthdays and things like that. And at some point someone asked me to cater an event that was like, I'd never done that before. And when I managed to pull it off, I was like, that was my next thought. I was like, well, maybe I should just go to culinary school.
Yeah. I mean, I missed the
Yeah.
wedding. I was in the kitchen the whole time. I heard it.
You know what happened, but oh my God, how many guests did you have?
Oh gosh, it wasn't big. I would say maybe 50 people, maybe a little
Oh,
more.
okay.
But
So just enough.
yeah.
Just enough.
And it
Yeah.
was a
Oh my God. Do you remember what
buffet.
you served?
It wasn't
Okay.
plated.
Do you remember
I
what you served?
I did a fruit platter of some sort. I remember vaguely. I did a fruit platter of some sort. I made individual desserts, and I did a stuffed pasta thing. It was big shells, like individual shells, stuffed with this ricotta mix on individual plates with a tomato sauce and a nice little garnish. Um, it was a full spread. It was a meat platter of some sort. And I just, now looking back at it, me now, if I would have saw that spread, I would have just been like, "Oh my God, what is this?" But,
Oh
yes,
man.
but it was great. It was great. They
Oh my
loved it.
God.
They enjoyed it. Her guests enjoyed it. Everybody complimented me on it, and that was my that was my turning point. That was when I was like, "This is what I should be doing." Like, for real, this
I
is what
love
I
it.
should be doing. You know.
Now, if you had to recreate that buffet, what would you do now that you have all that time behind you?
Oh, I would do so much more. It would probably be plated. Only 50 people played it. I could do that myself now, you know?
Yeah. Yep. You're like, well, I would have had some plates. I would have had real people
Yeah, it would have
plates.
been
Oh
plated.
my God.
That pasta dish, it was cool. It was something that I saw somewhere that I thought was beautiful, and I recreated it and made it my own. But honey, I wouldn't do that again. I wouldn't do that again.
It's like, well, we are not doing that again. Oh wow. It's incredible like how you evolve and you like look back at those early meals, those
Mhm.
early clients and go, wow, what was I
I think
doing?
I was. I
I
think I
was
was like 19.
Yeah, and it's just like you just cook to your experience and you're just
Right.
like, okay, it's fine. And it's like now that you look back in hindsight, you're like, oh no. What was that? Okay. So once you were in Seattle, like as far as your food part, the food part of your
Mhm.
life, um, like what kind of clients were you serving?
So when I moved to Seattle, I moved to Vashon Island, and again with this theme of me running across the country and running to save myself and running from my life or to my life. I had a lot of that. I'm actually writing a cookbook, and the chapters are broken up into lifetimes about my
I
different
love
different
it.
parts of the life that I was in and why I left and where I was there. But I was in Detroit and I was tired of a certain type of person. Um, I
That
was,
uh-huh.
yeah,
Yep.
you
Go
know what I'm
ahead. Go
saying?
ahead.
Okay. And I was just like, I want to get as far away from these people as I can, far away.
You're right. You're
And
right.
so I looked at the map and I said, I'm either going to Maine or Washington, the far corners.
Mm,
And I had never been to Seattle. I thought it was a small town. I didn't know much about it, but I saw this small
mhm.
little island, Vashon Island. I said, "This is where I'm going. I'm gonna stay at the
I love it.
hostel until I find a house." I,
Ma'am, come
I took the
on.
Greyhound bus with my
Okay,
little
that's commitment.
belongings, and
That is a
Greyhound
commitment.
to Seattle. Got on a ferry, dragging these suitcases behind me. Went into this
Mm.
hostel on Vashon Island. Stayed in a teepee that had a fire pit in it. Uh, But while I was on Vashon, I got the job as a pastry chef at Sound Foods Cafe, which provided the pastries for the Washington State ferry system.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had a very good job there, and the owners mismanaged and it ended up locking the doors on us, closing down, not telling us anything. And I went from there to the golf and country club on the island. I was the executive chef there for a couple of years.
Mm,
And when I left the island, I realized the culinary field in Seattle was completely saturated. It was good on the island, but
yeah.
outside of the island, not so much. And so I started off with a thumbtack ad. And from that thumbtack ad, I just started having clients popping up out of nowhere. That,
Mm,
and they were mostly clients that worked in tech. So people that worked in the Googles and the Microsofts and stuff like that
right.
because of Seattle. And
Yeah.
from there, I got a little bit of recognition, and Food Network reached out to me. And I went on Guys Grocery Games. I won the Halloween episode in, I think it was 2017, 16 or
Oh,
17.
wow. Okay.
And so I won that episode. I won $18,000. And I used that to quit the job that I was working on top of running my business and run my
Hmm.
business completely.
Nice. Nice.
And that was great. And I was kind of a local celebrity in Seattle for a while. And
Hey,
it was,
Seattle's a good
yeah, man,
time.
it was a good run. If it wasn't for that
Yeah.
crap with my ex, I probably wouldn't have left. But
Look, I worked out on Orcas Island for 3 summers. Um, so yeah, I would fly out to Seattle in like the end of May, beginning of June, get the ferry
uh-huh.
to Anacortes or to Orcas, and then I was there till like September, like the beginning of September every summer, and so
Beautiful.
I understand that. I understand that island life. I mean,
Yeah.
it's nothing. It's so unique. Like the island, people who live on those islands are definitely. It's a world unto itself.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but I loved it. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful land, and
Hmm.
it's just got and of course farms everywhere.
Yes.
Um, and then I think at some point we would see like the orca whales kind of passing through the island chain because it was like the San Juan island chain, and we had a neighboring island with a little French language camp, a French immersion camp, and so I paid them a visit because they were looking for a chef, and I was just like, "Ooh, I got to commit to be on this island all year long." I don't know about these winters. I don't know about these winters, friends.
They're not that bad.
Maybe
They're
not.
not that bad.
They're
It's just the people don't
sitting on this
know
little
how to.
tiny
The people
island.
don't know how to deal with it.
Girl,
Because, honey,
I was just like, ooh, because the guy who was there before me, he had built this cold a smoker, and I was just like, okay, well, the smoker alone might talk me into staying on this island for a minute. But yeah, I was just like, but I mean, every summer I think about it, and I'm just like, okay, I can find another opportunity like that. And because they used to take the kids out on like sailboats for the entire summer, and they would sail to Vancouver, and then into Canada and Canadian waters, and then come back and at the end of the summer bring the kids back. And so it was just like really like a really vigorous space. But Seattle is so like that. Washington is unique in that way. And then for the last job I had, we were in Seattle for some training and some management stuff, and just being able to be in the city at that point too. And like, because I usually would come through the city and just be there for the night, and then have to head out to the ferry in Anacortes. But just being able to spend that time in Seattle is just like, it definitely is a city unto itself.
Yeah.
And I most of the restaurants I've hit up I've never had a bad meal in Seattle, and I will say that. But yeah, I understand that like that idea of like going as far in the opposite direction of a zip code as I possibly can. And I tell people, I'm like, I think I've managed to live in like 6 different zip codes at this point on account of that. So I understand that life completely, where you're just like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I got to go. I got to get out of here. So yeah, like what's your, I mean, it's my least favorite question to ask any cook is like, what's your favorite thing to cook? So I guess a better question is, what are you curious about like right now? Like what are some of the culinary things or the food things that have gotten your attention? What are you kind of cooking through, or are you cooking through anything right now that you kind of keep coming back to?
Japanese and Korean cuisine are definitely on my radar. I absolutely love fermentation, and I love making dumplings. I love making noodles. Those long broths that cook for days and days, like tonkatsu ramen and things like that. I'm really big into that. And I'm also finding my way around vegan cuisine, which is I just kind of stumbled upon it because of the whole COVID thing. Business has been slow, and so I took on a consulting job with a vegan restaurant, and I can pretty much cook anything, but I am learning innovative ways to
Okay.
do things with plant-based food, which is surprising and enlightening. And I think that is something that
Okay.
the universe aligned me with, since I'm working on this farm project. It's like, if you're going to grow things, you're going to teach people to grow things, then you need to be more versed in plant-based food itself. And so that's definitely something that right now my blinders are set on this vegan cuisine.
Are you cooking through any, like, do you have any resources that you're kind of exploring on the topic? Because I mean, there's just so much material out there, and just the idea that I think New York, someone was exploring it in an article I was reading a few days ago about how in New York the larger percentage of vegan restaurants are owned by African Americans, which
Mm-hmm.
you would never know, of course, because if you looked at media you would think it wasn't. And so like we dominate the
Mm-hmm.
space, and I feel like it's just a natural place for us to fall. We tend to eat more plants
Mm-hmm.
than animal proteins. And so I just find it to, like, once you're doing it, it just feels right. It fits and makes sense. And so is there because like Bryant Terry's Vegetable Kingdom is brilliant, and a handful of other like cookbook resources right now. Is there anything you're like looking at as far as like helping you that's giving you a better understanding of like the vastness of the vegan space?
So I have one cookbook resource that I have dived into, and that's Crossroads.
Oh, okay.
It's amazing. I don't know anything about the author, but I am, whenever I cook things, I try to approach food from a fine dining aspect
Mm,
and not casual. And so when I was looking, I took this consultant job. I'm like, okay, he wants me to completely revamp the menu. I can make good stuff, but let me go and look at the trends and see what's going on.
mm,
And so when I look at this cookbook, I don't take it to take recipes per se, just like ideas and visuals.
okay.
And I looked at some of the things that this author is doing, and it's pretty amazing. And I would love to be on the forefront of vegan fine dining. I think it's so much beauty and versatility in vegetables, beans, and grains without going into that fake meat aspect. I don't
Yes.
really like
Ooh,
that.
that stuff is
I hate that. I hate
that stuff
that.
that
So
it's always a little weird. It's always a little weird to be like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. Why can't y'all just eat the vegetables? Just go ahead and eat the
yeah,
vegetables. It's all right. I think there's
just eat the
just eat the
vegetables.
vegetables, y'all. It's no need to do this to ourselves. Now, is it Crossroads Kitchen?
It is Crossroads. I'm gonna look at the book right now and tell
Because I know there's a Crossroads Kitchen, and they're a vegan fine dining restaurant that.
it is Crossroads by Tal Ronan.
Yeah, yep, that's them. So it's
Yep.
Crossroads in Los Angeles, the Crossroads Kitchen in Los Angeles, and they really
Okay.
do have a beautiful. I like that idea about creating a fine dining space for vegan food, because there's always while it's always beautifully plated. That level of refinement is
Mhm.
sometimes missing, because people tend to throw salads into a large beautiful bowl, or it's just
Exactly.
there's never this precision or that kind of technical aspect on cooking vegetables a certain way. And there's a handful of restaurants that are like really elevating it, but it's just not really part of the conversation around like veganism and vegan food, and how refined and beautiful it can really be,
Yes.
and how you can apply every single technique to that, to vegetables and grains as you would to animal
Yes.
protein, and then what we can do to get more flavor and more nutrition out of each and every component. So I know in Philly, they have the Veg is another really beautiful restaurant in Philadelphia that is doing. They're not necessarily vegan, but they are. They center vegetables on the menu, which I find like a
Okay.
really another great approach. Is that it's not necessarily like something they'll still brown butter for certain dishes. They'll still use
Mhm.
maybe egg in a certain dish, but everything is driven by vegetables. Like that's what informs all
Yeah.
of their choices. And so you will rarely find anything with that's kind of meat centric or meat focused. And
Mhm.
so like I found that was just another way to it was another really cool way to kind of create a conversation around vegetables being the larger, taking up more space and more real estate on the plate. And that was just another way to
Yeah.
do it, and not necessarily having to be completely vegan all the time, because not everybody's going to subscribe to it. But I think it's a really cool way to create a more plant-based or plant-centric diet if you can, for sure. So now, are you finding like in Louisiana, like before COVID, when you were getting out, were you finding like there a large vegan culture, or were people really?
Yeah, there is a large vegan culture. There's a big vegan soul food
Mm,
explosion here.
okay.
Of course, with it being New Orleans, they're gonna add flavor to it. It's not gonna be just boring and bland. But I did see that trend with that fake meat that I don't like a lot here. It's um it's just something that you can't get around, especially when people are trying to imitate classic Creole food.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And my goal, especially with my client now, is to move them away from the shaitan and the tofu and the TVP, and make the vegetable the center of the plate.
Okay.
And previous experience, especially from being in Seattle on the West Coast, you always have to accommodate the vegans out there.
Yes.
And so I've done beautiful wine dinners at wineries where I always had to have two menus. And I would make these menus pretty much identical, but the vegan version would have a vegetable as the center plate. So like I would have a scallop dish for the muse, and the vegan version would be an oyster mushroom scallop, you know, with basically the same fixings or the same accoutrement or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had mastered elevating vegan food without even thinking about it.
Wow.
I did it as an afterthought. And now I'm focusing on it.
Beautiful. And it's I love that.
Yeah.
I love that thought that it's like you were elevating food, and it just so happened to be that particular menu, that particular plate, but like it's always kind of like that idea of working towards like excellence and elevation, no matter what. So I will let's see I will ask you one last question, and then I'll let you go. What does what does the Black Roux Collective, what does Black Roux Farms look like in the next 3 years? Barring the madness of 2020, we'll take this as a practice year, and we'll do this as a trial year. And when it's time to subscribe, we will cancel the subscription, because this madness, I was like, y'all, we are 6 months in, and it is blowing up in these streets right
It
now.
is not.
I'm just like,
It
what are
is not getting
I was like,
better.
I need somebody to like refill 2020's prescription prescription or have the year 2020 see a therapist, because this mess is insane. But
This is 2019.2.
like, yes,
2020 actually starts next
next
year.
year we will wait. So I did, because I did see that you are doing a trip to Ghana.
And that was supposed to be happening on the 19th
Oh,
of this month.
oh my.
That's when it was supposed to happen.
Okay. So,
But because of everything, of course,
right.
that ain't happening.
Okay.
So
Okay. All right. Maybe another time. Maybe another time. So
maybe another time, I'll revisit that when I
Oh,
revisit it.
okay. Okay. But
Yeah,
yeah.
we had we had a long line of tours
Oh wow.
planned,
Okay.
and because of what happened, all that had to be scrapped.
Oh wow.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But with things happening the way that they did happen, I think that the universe gave me an opportunity to sit back and actually decide where I wanted to go and where I wanted to take this.
I love it. I love it.
And that's a blessing in disguise.
Absolutely.
Because community work has never been something that I thought about.
Wow.
It's just not something that I ever focused on. And now it's in my sights to do that. And it took a pandemic and a damn near race war,
girl,
for
it's like, okay, I'm gonna sit home and focus up. It's
exactly.
cool. It's cool. It's cool.
Exactly.
Wow.
So yeah, in the next 3 years, the farm will be a thing. It will be operational, and I'm claiming that.
All right.
I want to break ground on this farm in 2021.
Okay.
I want to at least have the property,
All right. All right.
and so yeah.
And now remind us where we can support and just get the word out, where people can send their, and ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and we know y'all collecting extra unemployment coins. Go ahead and drop a couple. Yeah. Support the situation. So just remind us where we can get more information about what you're doing, where we can follow you, and just get all the details on your cookbook and everything, all the things.
All right. So my Instagram has all of the information on it. My Instagram is Black Roux Culinary Collective. And on Facebook, it's Black Roux. The fundraiser is a Facebook fundraiser, and it is the Black Roux Farms fundraiser. The website is www.blackrouxcollective.com.
Okay.
And the website is currently under construction and being revamped for the new vision, because the vision is still very new.
Okay.
So
okay.
The old trip, the Ghana trip, is still up on the website because I cried about that.
We all had something to mourn. We sure did.
Yeah.
Yep, we sure did.
Yeah, but
it's
time to take that down.
Yeah,
but
we have to go ahead and let that go and move forward. Because like I tell people, we have things to do. We have some things to do. So that's Roux, Black Roux, ROUX Collective.
Yes.
Okay. So people are like, how and what's going on?
Roux.
Black Roux. If you are in, after the COVID is at least handled somehow in the next few, well, Lord knows, looking at these people not wearing a mask, we might be in the house to the end of the year. But if people are oh God. Now, is there any information out there or circulating about your cookbook, or are you still kind of in the early stages of that?
My cookbook, there is a little bit of information out there on the cookbook. I am still working on it. I am about 4 chapters in.
Okay.
So it's plugging along.
Right.
It was something that was being constantly worked on daily until I had to take this consulting client because I didn't have any work because of the COVID.
Right.
And so now it's slowed down a little bit, but it's not stopping momentum.
Okay.
I plan to have this cookbook done by the end of the year.
All right.
And the name of the cookbook is Black Roux, a biography of provisions and prose.
You know what? You better. Okay. Yep. I'm gonna put that on my list of things to come. Thank you. Uh,
Yes, ma'am.
well, thank you so much. I have been on a hiatus for a couple of months, so it's nice to come out of my semi-retirement and and just have a conversation with the tribe again. So thank you so much for carving out some time for me this morning. I appreciate it. Um, I am, I don't know why I was crazy enough to schedule like 18 interviews in the next 2 weeks, but I'm gonna do this because I don't know
Hey.
what the next few weeks look like. I don't know what kind of madness is fitting to jump off, but 2020 is not going to catch me unprepared.
Right.
Yes, yes, you are definitely like the first in like an incredible lineup of Black women who are just out here, not just breaking glass ceilings, but like really building these visions to the sky at this point. So I appreciate you and I appreciate your work. And just thank you so much. Everybody keep an eye on the Black Roux Collective Instagram and Black Roux Farms. Go to the Facebook page and donate some coinage, please. And but yes, sis, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening in on this week's conversation with Chef Maya. I am excited that you have joined our community of thoughtful, ambitious, and informed listeners. I love to share the stories and experiences of inspiring and passionate people. The Afros and Knives podcast is a listener-supported podcast. We love our community of listeners. So to become a supporter of this show, visit www.afrosandknives.com to make a donation or to find our Patreon page. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to download, subscribe, and leave a comment. I'd love to hear your feedback. Don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter so you can stay up to date on new guests and other Afros and Knives news. So until next week, may you be happy, may you be safe, may you be healthy, and may you be at peace.